Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
And I'm Kenzie Benali.
And tonight Ralph will be hoping to wreck the party at the Amex as Saints take on Brighton in front of 2,000 spectators. A win would lift Southampton back up into the Premier League's top 5. Now, discussing everything pre and post match with us tonight is Dean Hammond and Adam Leitch. How are you doing, gentlemen? Have you got over last week?
All good, thank you. All good. Looking forward to the game tonight.
Yeah, likewise. It was a bit, tough few days afterwards, wasn't it? But excited again now for a couple of hopefully winnable games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's look ahead to tonight's game then, shall we? Because team news is less than 15 minutes away now. We can see the current scene at the Amex where very shortly 2,000 fans will be coming along to enjoy the game. Very excited fans, I'm sure indeed. Now, we do know that Ralph has pretty much a full squad to choose from tonight, which is great news. Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond are back in contention. Mohamed Salisu also available for selection. But Dean, let's come to you first. What do you expect to see tonight from the changes, if any at all?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, Kenzie, to be honest, because the manager's obviously got a fit squad to choose from. They've had an extra rest because they're playing obviously Monday night. The team have performed really well this season, but he has got options. It'll be interesting to see if he does make changes. They haven't performed poorly against Manchester United. They were 2-0 up and I think they lost the game due to fatigue potentially and a little bit of game management. But the last away performance against Wolves was actually very, very good in the 1-1 draw. So the manager could look at it from 2 points of view. Do I look at the last away performance and go with the same team that performed very well? Obviously, Danny Ings is fit now as well and he'll be in contention and that's a big plus for the squad. But we are only the 11th game into the season. Does he need to be risked yet, really? Can he be bedded back in with a substituted appearance, a couple of appearances, and then bring him back into the busy period over the festive fixtures? So it's an interesting one for the manager. I don't think there'll be too many changes. Potentially, maybe Danny Ings may come back in or Nathan Redmond may come back in. But any other changes, I don't really expect.
Okay, well, we can see the players arriving at the Amex now. We did see Danny Ings, there he is, looking very pleased alongside Shay Adams there, and great to see him back after injury. Now, Dean, I want to come to you on this one. Ralph did say that Saints need to be more defensively disciplined and we can't be needing to score 3 or 4 goals to win a game. Do you think that that's a fair comment, and do you think we'll see tactical changes this evening, or will the style of play be similar?
I think the style of play will definitely be similar. I think that's how they've played for the whole season. There's a philosophy at the football club and every player understands their role and how they are expected to play. So I can't see that changing. I think potentially there could be some changes when the players are becoming tired late on in games. So more of a personnel change than actually a tactical change or a change of shape. I think that could be slowly introduced, and that was evident against Manchester United where a couple of changes could have been made earlier. And just a little bit of game management from the players, really. Maybe when you're 2-0 up, maybe you don't make that extra forward run. Maybe you just hold your shape in the middle of the field, or as a fullback, I'll just stay this time. I won't make that run to save your legs. So I don't think there's major changes. Southampton have played brilliant this season. They really have. One defeat against Manchester United. But second half against Manchester United, we all forget that they were 2-0 down. So they went for broke. They had nothing to lose. They could have gone and lost the game 4-0, but they won 3-2. So I don't think there needs to be major changes. I think Southampton have been great this year.
And Adam, what about yourself? Do you think there'll be any swaps around in Ralph's team tonight?
Oh, I agree with Dean, really. I think so much depends on whether Danny Ings is kind of fit enough to start or not, but probably not a lot. I'd say if anybody's position is under threat, it's probably Moussa Djenepo. Probably because if Danny comes back, Theo drops into that role. And with Nathan Redmond back, I think at a game like this, there might be a temptation to maybe put Redmond in as well and pull Djenepo out. But I think other than that, I would expect it to be relatively similar.
Fans are obviously going to be excited to see Danny back in the squad. We saw him arriving there as well. But is there a need to rush him back, Adam? Do you think that there's no rush because we've been able to score goals without him actually in the side.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I think they've scored. They've certainly not struggled to score without Danny. I think they've got five goals in the 3 games he hasn't been available. So goal scoring hasn't actually been a massive issue in that respect without him. But he is their talisman. He is the kind of main man. He is the focal point of the team. I'm sure, with all due respect to Che Adams and Theo Walcott playing up top, I'm sure his teammates feel a lot more confident when they look around the dressing room and they see Danny is going to be fit to play. So I think from Ralph's point of view, he obviously is the one who sees him every day on the training ground. He can make the best assessment. I would totally agree that if he's not 100%, don't risk him. It's just there's no point at this stage in the season of going crazy when you've got so many games coming up, because you're going to need him in the next couple of weeks. He's going to have to start if he's available. But right now, for this one-off individual match as it is now, no, you could go without him and have him on the bench for 20 minutes if you need him. But that said, he is such an important player that if Ralph has looked at him and feels, no, he's 100% now, there's nothing stopping him, then you bring him back in because he's your best player, he's your focal point, and then you make that change, probably take out Djenepo, drop Walcott back and play Ings up front with Adams. But really, I think it all depends. 100% fit or near enough, you start him. If he's not, then be sensible. I think that's what I think anyway.
Well, we'll find out how Ings will feature in just under 10 minutes' time. Already lots of fan comments coming into us with score predictions and who our goal scorers will be this evening. Rosemary, thanks for getting in touch. She's watching us on YouTube. She says it's her birthday tomorrow. I'll have a wonderful day. And she says, come on, boys, let's celebrate with another win. Come on, you Reds. Ross Martin, hello to you. He says, can't wait to get to St Mary's again. Come on, you Reds. Yeah, we're very much looking forward to welcoming fans back here next week for our clash against Sheffield United. Russell has said, come on Saints, 3 points please. Craig on Facebook has said another Ward-Prowse beauty, and Rob J is going for a pretty convincing win and a clean sheet. He thinks the Saints will beat the Seagulls 3-0 this evening.
Now, Ralph did give an injury update on Danny, on Nathan Redmond and Mohamed Salisu in his press conference, so we can take a look at that now.
Yeah, it seems that some guys are coming back. Kenzie ready, start to train now this week, will be part of the sessions, and then we have a look how competitive they are. And Sally is also a step forward now in his development, so have a few more alternatives in the future, and this is good for me.
Is he somebody who potentially could be involved in the squad on Monday, or is it still maybe a little bit early for him in terms of the steps he's taking?
All of his players I was speaking about are possible that they are in the squad on Monday. We will have a look for whom it is possible and for whom it is too early.
Dean, I want to come to you for our next question, because quite a few media outlets have been a little bit critical of Southampton dropping points from winning positions. But on the flip side of that, Southampton have scored first in 8 of their first 10 games, and actually no team has done that more. So that's obviously a great stat there. What do you think needs to change, if anything? You know, do you think Ralph needs to address things defensively after we're ahead, or would you keep things the same?
I would keep things the same, and I think it's a little bit harsh to be critical of the team. I think the winning positions they've lost against top sides as well. I think we were ahead against Tottenham and lost that game, ahead against Manchester United, ahead against Chelsea, ahead against Wolves. So they're top opposition, so they're going to get opportunities. So I think that's really harsh, and I think Southampton has scored a lot of goals this season. I think it's maybe 19 goals, so it's almost almost 2 a game, something like that. So that's a real positive. I think I mentioned it before. I think it just could be down to the players individually having a bit more game management, a little bit more understanding of the situation of the game, the state of the game. So, for instance, when they're 2-0 up against Manchester United, maybe they don't try and go for the third as much. Still be positive, still be progressive, still want to try and score, but maybe don't send both fullbacks forward. Maybe James Ward-Prowse sits in the middle of the field for 5-10 minutes, get past the hour mark, see it through to 2-0, and then see how the game develops. So I don't think there needs to be major changes. I think the criticism is harsh. I think Southampton have had a brilliant season. They're playing good football. And I think the defeat against Manchester United was just down to fatigue. in my opinion. And there could have just been some personnel change, not tactical change. And I love the way Southampton play. It's exciting as a fan. They look like they just want to outscore teams. So personally, I wouldn't want to see many changes.
Adam, what's your thoughts on this? Because Southampton have actually only failed to hold on to the lead 3 times this season, once against Tottenham and then twice in the last 2 games. But are the team's performance maybe later on in matches a worry for you?
Well, I mean, to a degree, I tend to agree with Dean. I think that when you actually look at a lot of the statistics that are being highlighted about Saints and points dropped, they're statistics that are rolling back to 2018 here, where the numbers are colossal, to be honest. And so I guess media are using that as a kind of to illustrate a longer trend. But I actually think that I agree with Dean. It's a little bit harsh because I think Saints have evolved a lot in the last 6 months. And so you could only kind of really judge them now accurately, I think, on what's happened this season, which is exactly what you underline there, Steve. So, and it's a difficult one because you kind of, Saints fans and us as well are really enjoying watching Saints play and the way they play, the style they play. And the fact that that means they're positive, they're attacking, they score goals. So it then feels a bit harsh to say, well, kind of the flip side of that is you should also be really able to be really defensive and not concede goals. That's obviously what everybody wants to do. But most teams, unless you've got a team full of absolute world-class players, can't do both. You're kind of always seeking a balance. I do wonder a little bit whether maybe Ralph could just be a little bit more proactive with a change or two, perhaps a bit preemptive. I really like the formation they play, but you kind of do think as well, closing out a game, could they kind of go 4-2-3-1 maybe, just bring on one more player, plug up those wide areas a little bit. But again, that's a balancing act. And I almost feel uncomfortable saying it because I kind of almost don't believe it because actually I think the team is great the way it is and they should keep on playing. And for me, that's what they should do. But there are ways and means of perhaps trying to address it just from the bench a little bit as well, I think, as well as the players, as Dean said, who were on the pitch at the time. So I think there are options there for Ralph. But to be honest with you, it's been a winning formula generally this season. So why change it?
Not only looking at this evening's match, but also next week's clash against Sheffield United, do you think that it's too much to say that these could be season-defining games? And what's your point expectations from these matches?
I think it's a little bit too early to say season-defining games. I think they're important games. I think there'll be games that would have been identified at the beginning of the season that they're winnable games for Southampton. I think they're important games more because it would just enforce the brilliant start that Southampton have had. Now, if they go and get 2 poor results now, it does kind of affect that a little bit. But if you get 2 really positive results and you go into, I don't know, I think that would be 12 games in and it would be something like 20, 23 points. That would be fantastic for a really, really good return. So I don't think they're defining games. I think they're important games that can keep the momentum going for Southampton, can keep building on that confidence, can keep building on that belief for the players. And I think they'll go into these games knowing they can win. In my opinion, Southampton are a better team than both Brighton and Sheffield United. And there'll be games that they think, okay, well, we perform really well. We can score more goals than both of these teams. Brighton are not prolific and nor is Sheffield United. So I think 4 points would be an excellent return, but I really think Southampton will be going for 6.
Very quick one for you, Adam, because we've got about 45 seconds till team news. Mohamed Salisu is in contention. Ralph's not been able to slot him in yet, but how does he do it with such a rock-solid partnership at the back already?
To be honest, Steve, I don't think he can right now. I think you can't disrupt what's there at the moment. I think he just has to be patient and wait for his chance. There's a lot of games coming up. There are absolutely inevitably going to be injuries and suspensions. It's going to happen. Whether it happens in that position or not, who knows? But you know, he's fit, he's ready, and he's got that option now, Ralph. And I think that first chance he gets, I suspect he will give him a game and see what he's like. And I would suspect that probably, in all likelihood, will happen over the next month.
Well, Salisu has been included in the matchday squad for the first time. Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond return to the bench. You can see your Southampton starting 11 on your screens now. In goal we have Alex McCarthy. At the back, Carl Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, Yannick Vestergaard and Ryan Bertrand. In midfield, Stuart Armstrong, our captain, James Ward-Prowse, Oriol Romeu and Moussa Djenepo. And at the top of the field, Theo Walcott and Shay Adams leading the line. The Southampton substitutes then are as follows: Fraser Forster, Mohamed Salisu, Jack Stevens, Ibrahima Diallo, Nathan Redmond, Danny Ings and Shane Long. So, as suspected, no major shocks from that, Dean. What do you make of that starting 11 to take on Brighton?
I think it's a strong team. I think the manager's been consistent with his selection again. He's got the trust in the players. I think he's been sensible there. I think you can see probably that Danny Ings is not 100% fit, and the manager's had the same thought process as us, that not to push him before it's needed, that there's going to be a lot of games over the festive period, and he's such an important player. You don't want to risk a reoccurrence of the injury. So I think that's a good decision. And obviously you can come off the bench and make a really big impact. But it'd be great to have him back in the squad. No, I think it's good. I think the managers chose the right team for tonight, because I keep mentioning it. They're getting an understanding of playing together. They're building relationships and they look strong. So I look forward to the game, and I think there's some real threats in there going forward. And, it's exciting to see Southampton play.
Adam, Moussa Djenepo keeps his spot in the side. He was the man that got the breakthrough at the Amex last season. He'll be hoping for more of the same this evening, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And he doesn't start this game at left back either, which will probably slightly help that equation, unlike last season. So, yeah, and I just agree with Dean, with echo what he said, really. I think Ralph's perfect case scenario, when you look at this team that he's named, is that they're 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go, and he can give Danny and probably Nathan a bit of a run out for 20 minutes under not huge amounts of pressure, hopefully, to get them some game time, get them a bit of fitness back in their legs again, and get them kind of back involved and sort of get them ready for action, but without taking any unnecessary risks. So, yeah, good. Another solid team selection, and yeah, feeling pretty confident with this.
Well, I think the fans at home are feeling pretty confident as well, Adam. Lots of positive comments flooding into us on our social channels, because Card16 on YouTube has got in touch and said Danny Ings to score a brace off the bench. Wouldn't that be nice? A nice return for him. Sam Bowman has gone for a 3-0 Saints win. A couple of predictions coming up with that same scoreline. He also says, come on you Saints. Pauline, thanks for getting in touch. She says, come on you Saints, you can do this. And we have a comment here from Shah. He says, Charlie here, 3-0 win today. Shay to score. So fans are feeling very positive and predicting another convincing win, I think, at the Amex Stadium this evening.
Yeah, so right now we're going to look back at a couple of previous meetings between Southampton and Brighton. In a moment we'll relive the clash from last season at the Amex, but first we're going to rewind the clocks to 2010, where a certain Dean Hammond netted against his former club.
Gus Poyet Seagulls are 6 points below Alan Pardew's Saints. Can they go some way to bridging the gap this evening? Southampton, of course, looking to celebrate Johnson's Paint Trophy victory in the best possible fashion, but it's Brighton in the area. And Bennett will have a go! And what a go it was! Great finish from Elliot Bennett. Swirling free kick, and this time it's touched in. It's Dean Hammond, I think, who gets the credit. There were enough red and white shirts in there. Brezovan came, and it was nodded by him. It was a clever little flick on. Good work from Seb Carroll. But Southampton have robbed it back. Jason Punchin has options left and right. Punchin goes alone and puts it wide. Brighton are looking very bright indeed. Here's Luar once more. Great ball, free header, 2-1. Ashley Barnes gets it, the substitute. Sure, Southampton will feel that they really are worth something in this game. We are now in the last minute of the 90 at the Withdean Stadium. Brighton 2, Southampton 1. It is the Saints inside the area. And the cut back for Barnard! Lee Barnard levels it up. Full time at the Withdean. It finishes Brighton 2, Southampton 2.
Well, Dean, we saw your goal there. The camera didn't quite track your celebration, but I got to pull you up on it. It didn't look particularly low-key.
Well, I'm smirking and laughing because obviously I remember the goal. I think if I'm right, it was a couple of days after we just won the Paints Trophy. So I was probably still on a high from that. Obviously, going back to Brighton, there was a bit of history there. Obviously, I came through as a YTS and a youth player there, and didn't leave on the best of terms with the football club. So I think it was just a bit of frustration, and I scored, and I celebrated like I'd scored from, I think, about 35 yards, and it gone off the crossbar. But I think I barely even touched it with my head, to be honest. But I obviously claim it. But yeah, it was just a bit of frustration, a bit of fun with the fans. Didn't get the best reaction, if I'm honest, and probably one of my regrets in my career. And had to do a bit of an apology when I went back to Brighton later on in my career. So yeah, not one of my finest moments, but that's the emotion of football, and that's the brilliance of football. So good fun.
I thought that was a lovely glancing header, Dean. But Lee Barnard got a late equaliser, Adam. What do you remember in particular from that game, or what the With Dean was like?
Oh, there's nothing else to take from that game other than Dean's goal, is there? Yeah, I mean, that game, sort of joking aside, Dean's right about sort of the timing it came in the season. And it was also that period of time where Southampton, well, Brighton as well, but Southampton knew that they weren't going to quite make the playoffs. The sort of charge had kind of was just going to fall a little bit short, having started the season obviously so far behind everybody else before a ball was kicked. So I think at that point in time, it was more a feeling of building the momentum around the team for the next season, which was obviously going to be the big promotion push. The team by that stage was a lot more solid. Most of the guys who were going to make up the side that would obviously go through the divisions were basically more or less there. They were looking a lot more solid under Alan Pardew as well. I think they were playing well generally, but and the same for Brighton to a certain extent. Obviously different circumstances, but when you look at what would happen the next season, it's pretty obvious that they were kind of laying their foundations ready for a big year as well. So yeah, and I mean, as for the With Dean in general, I mean, I don't really know what you can say about it. I mean, it was an athletics track with scaffolding around the outside. I mean, that's I don't wish to be too unkind to them, but I think the Amex is a slightly nicer place to go and play. I'm sure Dean will agree.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Well, Dean, in previous shows, we've spoken about the rivalry between Adkins and Poyet the following season. But what was the rivalry like at this point? Or was the majority of the abuse just directed at you?
Yeah, the majority of abuse was directed at me. And that was before the game. That was before I'd even scored. So, yeah, like I said, there was a bit of history there, which was unfortunate. Obviously, I'm born in Sussex, born and bred. I came through the youth system, and things like that happen in football where you just kind of leave on a sour note, where a lot of truth is not heard and a lot of reports are not true, but you have to kind of get on with it as a player, and that's fine. You accept that. But there wasn't a massive rivalry then, to be honest, between the clubs, because, I mean, I come through as Brighton, so I can say, Southampton was such a bigger club that for them to be in League One and Brighton were never really, the games were never really played against each other, a couple of times in the Championship. So the rivalry was never really there. It just kind of got built the following season between Gus and Nigel, and that was interesting. That was an interesting situation because they really just didn't get on. Completely different personalities, completely clashed. But Adam's right. Brighton at that point were becoming a lot better team. Gus was kind of getting them playing the football that they played over the next 2 or 3 seasons, and we were coming a little bit stronger under Alan. So they definitely wanted to beat us, and there was a bit of bite in the game. And after I celebrated like that, there was a bit more bite in the game. So yeah, it was entertaining for a few seasons.
Yeah, it's entertaining to look back on for sure. Well, it's time now to take a look back at the last time the two sides met at the Amex. It was last August. The Saints won 2-0, and I travelled down to Brighton to watch the match.
Somebody's just been given a red card. Nobody's really sure what's going on. It was a nasty tackle on Valerie, and it was a straight red. So it's Brighton that have found the back of the net first. It came from a corner, but the fans are calling for VAR here. So checking goal. Still no decision. I always like VAR. Djenepo with the breakthrough. 1-0 Saints. Yes. It's Redmond that makes it 2-0 for the Saints in the 9 minutes of this game. We have a comfortable lead now. Surely we're taking home all 3 points from the Amex Stadium this afternoon. That's it, we are officially off the mark in the Premier League. What a huge win here at the Amex Stadium today. 2-0 to the Saints.
Oh, great reactions and camera work there, Kenzie, I thought.
Well, thank you very much.
But it feels like a lifetime ago since we saw fans enjoying a game like that. Adam, what do you remember from that day? And I forgot the rest of that question now. How important was it getting the first win of the season back then?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it's an enjoyable piece to watch, just to kind of remember what football used to be like before 2020 happened. But and also the one thing I did know when I watched it, which I thought was quite funny, is I'm pretty sure the guy just over Kenzie's shoulder must be a Brighton fan, because when Saints make it 2-0, Kenzie's jumping all over the place, and he's just stood there literally with his hands in his pocket, completely emotional. And then at the end of the game. Yeah, well, at the end of the game, then you're obviously all going mad in there, and he just was like.
I would have got him out of there, Adam, if only I'd known.
Yeah, that's the guy. He's been unmasked now. The Brighton fan, the Saints said. But yeah, seriously though, that game, the game in itself was really important. It was a really important moment of the season. Saints were shaky. They were really shaky. I think we started that season quite optimistic that Ralph was gonna, have Saints flying up the table, a bit like they have done actually this year from the start. But it kind of wasn't the case. And actually, they went to Brighton really needing to get a win that day, and they didn't start well at all. I mean, Brighton were well on top. The Saints looked like it was only a matter of time till they would concede. That was Djenepo was at left back, and Brighton were exploiting that excellently. And it just looked like it was literally a matter of time before they scored. And then you felt Saints were just going to capitulate and so on. And then a moment of absolute madness with that red card. I mean, completely inexplicable. What is going through his head? I've got no idea. And that moment just changed the game. Brighton have got to play, an hour or so with 10 men. Djenepo got moved up the pitch, thank goodness, and produced a moment of magic as well. And yeah, Saints kind of turned a corner, and that was a really big result for them. And it's so strange, like the seasons can hinge on sometimes the funniest little things, and that one crazy tackle, just a complete moment of madness, might have actually just kind of helped save them. Even though it was early, they were just in such rocky mindset at that point, and it just changed everything. And after that, they were a much better team, Saints, and they kind of went on a lot stronger for most of the rest of the season, on and off from there. So yeah, it was a really big day for them.
Dean Hammond mentioned that moment of magic from Djenepo from that game. We've spoken endlessly about him perhaps needing more game time, and that goal against Brighton last season is the perfect example of him at his best. Do you think that consistency is key for him, or do you think that he needs to work on a specific part of his game?
I think consistency is key. I think the more and more he plays in the team, the more he's going to understand that role, and the more that he'll understand what the manager wants from him. We've seen the flashes of brilliance, like the goal against Brighton, the flicks that we done highlights on a couple of weeks ago. They're fantastic. He has that bit of magic, that ability. And the one thing he's really improved on is his defensive work. He understands the shape, and he'll come back and he'll help the fullback. He'll try and get the ball back as quick as he can. I just like to see him when he gets in them areas, because he gets in some really good areas now with the ball at his feet, to kind of express himself even more, be a little bit more selfish, trust himself a little bit more. And he hasn't been negative, but I'd like him to try and take one or two players off and get a shot away. Not every time. And I think that's what he needs to learn, and that's the balance. But when he does get in them positions, really trust himself and trust in his ability, because he's got so much of it and he's so exciting to watch. But he's young and he's learning. But yeah, he's got that magic touch that we all love to see. So, and the confidence is growing with him week in and week out. The manager obviously trusts him now and likes him playing. So yeah, if he can keep that consistent run together, he'll keep getting better and better.
Well, it sounds like the fans trust in Moussa Djenepo as well. A number of comments coming in predicting goals from him. Michael Gordon on YouTube has got in touch, and he says he's hoping for another Djenepo screamer this evening. Isaac, hello to you. He's watching along on YouTube. He says, come on you Saints. He's going for a 2-1 win tonight, and he thinks it will be Theo and Shea with the goals. Alex Savage, hello. She says, amazing how positive we are compared to this time last year. Umar's also left us a comment. He says, great to see Danny Ings back. Yes, it certainly is. Richard has also said, I can only see us winning this one. He's going for a 3-1 win, and he says, come on you Reds, with lots of fist emojis. And a final one for now from Jacob. Hello to you. He's going for a 1-0 win to the Saints, and he's hoping for a Danny Ings 74th minute winner. God, that would be scenes, wouldn't it? Oh,
yeah,
love to see that as well.
Grab that.
Absolutely.
Well, let's discuss the game in a bit more detail now. Saints travelled down to Brighton with the Seagulls sitting in 8th position. Now, Brighton actually haven't beaten Southampton since 2012, but what's slightly more impressive, depending on how you look at it, is that Brighton actually haven't won a Premier League home game in the whole of 2020. Now, Dean, you've seen them a fair bit. What are you putting that down to?
Just inconsistency. I watched the game last week when they played against Liverpool, and they get opportunities. They're just not as ruthless as they need to be, and they give other teams opportunities. They play some lovely football. They're really good on the eye. They're lovely to watch. They're very good in possession. Their movement individually and as a team is very good. But that can be their downfall as well, because they'll play out from the back. The centre-halves are very comfortable with the ball, but they'll drive into midfield, they'll play the ball into midfield, and you can intercept the ball and win the ball back higher up the pitch. Southampton are very, very good at that. So it's just the simple things. They haven't scored enough goals and they've let too many in. And the Amex is actually a huge pitch. It's a really, really big pitch. So they're an expansive team. So when they've got the ball, they make the pitch massive. They make the team really big. So when they lose the ball, there's lots of gaps. So when you're playing in the Premier League against high quality players and they can break on you quickly, you get isolated. And that's been their problem, really. So, but they're really good to watch. They're good on the eye. They're just not quite doing enough in both boxes.
Well, we can see the Brighton lineup on our screens now. They'll be lifted by the return of Lamptey to their side this evening, no doubt. Adam, what do you make of this Brighton team? Because they've drawn their last 3 home matches, the latest one being against Liverpool, the champions. How do you expect them to set up against the Saints this evening? What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, I think they're an interesting club, actually, Kenzie. When you look at them from afar, they feel like they're sort of in a transitional period as a club. They've come up, they've had that sort of initial run in the Premier League, and now they're trying to move themselves from a team that's sort of a new team that potentially could yo-yo to a team that is established in the Premier League and that kind of can settle comfortably in mid-table. I dare I say it, because it won't go down well with Brighton fans. I'll be about as popular as Dean was after that goal. But I think that kind of the club that they need to really base themselves on probably is Saints. That's where they kind of want to get to. And I think that's the difficulty they've got. I think they've got a good manager. Agree with what Dean said, what I've seen of them. They play nice football. They've obviously got this fairly settled formation now, the 3 centre halves, even though that leaves them a bit exposed at times. It kind of works for the style they've got. If you're being brutal, though, they've got a lot of good play, a lot of good players, but they're just missing perhaps a little bit of quality. And I'm not just saying that's in attack. I think that's across the field. They're just a little tiny bit short of a lot of other teams in the Premier League. It's not a lot, but it's enough that when you're talking fine margins, they kind of just have enough results just go against them because they just didn't have enough quality to take a couple of chances, or they just got a little bit exposed on kind of a one-on-one situation somewhere across the pitch. So I think that they're doing well, and I like what they're doing as well. I think it's good, but until they can get that little bit of extra quality in the team, and that is something that generally in the Premier League does come the longer you can hang in there because your resources do get a little bit greater. But until they can get that extra quality, then that's what's going to hold them back. And tonight, obviously, Adam Lallana, who we know a lot about, who's a player they've brought in, who has got that extra quality, is missing. But then when he's out and you've got, one or two of their better players out, that's when their squad's a little bit exposed, I think. So, yeah, a decent team, kind of going about things in the right way, but they've still got a big step to make, I think, to make themselves feel like they're a comfortable Premier League team and not going to be fighting relegation most years.
Well, Manchester United's late winner denied Saints any points last time out. Dean, how determined are the players going to be to bounce back from that? And if you were captain now, what would you be saying in the dressing room?
Well, I'd love to be captain of this team. That would be brilliant. But it would just be more of the same. It would just be the consistent approach they've had. I wouldn't want to change anything. It would just be like, let's start on the front foot. Let's try and press. Let's try and win the ball back. Play with that high energy. Play with that confidence and belief that they've got. Because they've been performing really, really well. And just them small reminders. If they do get ahead, if they are comfortable, then let's just settle down for a period. Can we keep the ball for a little bit longer? Not try and score every time we get it. So there wouldn't be major things. And these players seem to be able to manage themselves very, very well. They seem collectively as a group, they're happy, they enjoy playing together, and they're focused. They look focused and confident, and that's great to see. And they look like they're enjoying playing with each other and enjoying playing for Southampton. So I don't think a lot needs to be said. It's more in the performance, and the performances have been great this year.
Absolutely, they really have been. It's been a phenomenal start to the season, and it has been a while, Adam, since we've gone into a game off the back of a defeat. So are you kind of expecting the players to go in with a little more caution to avoid the danger of suffering back-to-back defeats?
I really hope not. I really do, because I think that if you the part of the beauty of Saints this season has been their mindset, which has been so positive. They've taken onto the pitch from the first whistle every game a really positive attitude, even when things haven't always gone well, even when they've had a shaky start here and there, they still haven't lost their desire to be positive, to kind of play with a bit of a swagger in the style that the manager is encouraging them to play, to express themselves out on the pitch as well. And I think that really has been kind of the key to their success and why they've done so well. I think if they start trying to second guess themselves a little bit, if they start trying to doubt the fact that, or maybe we're a bit too attacking, maybe they get a bit caught up in we're blowing too many leads or we're conceding too many goals, I think that's when they'll come unstuck, because I don't know for sure that there is kind of a really great plan B here anywhere in this setup at the moment, but there's a really, really good plan A, and that's working. So kind of stick with it. And I really hope we don't see any sort of mental scars. There shouldn't be. There's no reason there should be. Dean what he said earlier was absolutely spot on. Man United are a good team. They've got world-class players in there. That what happened last time out, it's no shame on Saints. It's just one of those things that happen. They got them knuckled down today. They're the better team today. On paper, they are better than Brighton. On paper, they're better than Sheffield United. So go out, play your game, impose yourselves on them. Don't worry about them. Don't second guess yourselves, and that's probably their best chance of winning.
Well, there's just over half an hour to go until kick-off at the Amex, so it's time to get your final thoughts, gentlemen. Dean, how do you think the game's going to go, and what is your score prediction for this evening?
I think it'll be a really entertaining game because both teams play a really attractive style of football. I think it'll be tactically very good as well. I think both managers would have looked at this in real detail. Brighton would have identified thinking we need to win a home game, we need to get 3 points on the board, and Southampton will want to bounce back. So I think there'll be chances at both ends. I don't think there'll be loads of goals tonight, but I think Southampton will win 2-1 with a late winner.
And Adam, how are you feeling? Cautiously optimistic?
Yeah, I think so. I'm with Dean. I actually don't think there's going to be a lot of goals tonight. I think this might actually be quite a tight match, and I don't think there probably will be that much in it. But between the sides, I actually think Saints will probably be the better team. But I just wonder, there's a bit of a clash of the way that they play and formations, and I wonder if it might just lead to the game, not being quite as open as we might have expected. But I actually think the Saints have the superior quality, and they will get a win. But I'm going to go for a very narrow 1-0 win tonight.
Oh, well, I'm sure the 2,000 fans that are taking their seats at the Amex as we speak are very much looking forward to kick-off. Dean, Adam, thank you so much for your insight as always. Thank you very much to everyone for watching along on Saints Live at home as well. The Saints will, of course, be looking to take all 3 points from the Seagulls this evening. But make sure you join us after the game for the final whistle. We'll see you then.